Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate very much your generous invitation to be here tonight. You bear heavy responsibilities these days, and an article I read some time ago reminded me of how particularly heavily the burdens of present-day events bear upon your profession. You may remember that in 1851, the New York Herald Tribune, under the sponsorship and publishing of Horace Greeley, employed as its London correspondent an obscure journalist by the name of Karl Marx. We are told that foreign correspondent Marx, stone broke, and with a family ill and undernourished, constantly appealed to Greeley and managing editor Charles Dana for an increase in his munificent salary of $5 per installment, a salary which he and Engels ungratefully labeled as the lousiest petty bourgeois cheating. But when all his financial appeals were refused, Marx looked around for other means of livelihood and fame, eventually terminating his relationship with the Tribune and devoting his talents full-time to the cause that would bequeath to the world the seeds of Leninism, Stalinism, revolution, and the Cold War. If only this capitalistic New York newspaper had treated him more kindly, if only Marx had remained a foreign correspondent, history might have been different. And I hope all publishers will bear this lesson in mind the next time they receive a poverty-stricken appeal from a small increase in the expense account from an obscure newspaper man. I have selected as the title of my remarks tonight, "The President and the Press." Some may suggest that this would be more naturally worded, "The President versus the Press," but those are not my sentiments tonight. It is true, however, that when a well-known diplomat from another country demanded recently that our State Department repudiate certain newspaper attacks on his colleagues, it was unnecessary for us to reply that this administration was not responsible for the press, for the press had already made it clear that it was not responsible for this administration. Nevertheless, my purpose here tonight is not to deliver the usual assault on the so-called one-party press. On the contrary, in recent months, I have rarely heard any complaints about political bias in the press except from a few Republicans. Nor is it my purpose tonight to discuss or defend the televising of presidential press conferences. I think it is highly beneficial to have some 20 million Americans regularly sit in on these conferences to observe, if I may say so, the incisive, the intelligent, and the courteous qualities displayed by your Washington correspondents. Nor, finally, are these remarks intended to examine the proper degree of privacy which the press should allow to any president and his family. If, in the last few months, your White House reporters and photographers have been attending church services with regularity, that has surely done them no harm.
Today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation.
On the other hand, I realize that your staff and wire service photographers may be complaining that they do not enjoy the same green privileges, the local golf courses, which they once did. It is true that my predecessor did not object, as I do, to pictures of one's golfing skill in action. But neither, on the other hand, did he ever been a Secret Service man? My topic tonight is a more sober one, of concern to publishers as well as editors. I want to talk about our common responsibilities in the face of a common danger. The events of recent weeks may have helped to illuminate that challenge for some, but the dimensions of its threat have loomed large on the horizon for many years. Whatever our hopes may be for the future, for reducing it.
You are far from seeing reality, because the ones that set up these schools are your sworn enemies. They be promoting poverty, causing disunity, spreading all disease and causing calamities. It's a global conspiracy. They got you thinking that you're free, despite the fact that they've been looting you for centuries. Suddenly, in the 40s, the global elite becomes nice. Instead of war for poppies, it's for supporting liberty. The British elite dominates the world. They claim the right to destroy their enemies. They instigate them to fight. Whether India or Pakistan or Iraq and Iran, in any war they be controlling both sides. Just like Israel and Saudi Arabia, they got petty feuds to keep you confused and distract you. So will you let fear motivate you, or stay with love and light? That's the question I ask the 7 billion worldwide. They say ignorance is strength. Can't you see? Can't you see? Freedom is slavery. Can't you see? Can't you see that war is peace? Can't you see, silly feet, that world government is what we need? They say ignorance is strength. Can't you see? Can't you see? Freedom is slavery. Can't you see? Can't you see that war is peace? Can't you see, silly feet, that world government is what we need? Where government means to rule the mind of the masses, because their asses can't see the light.
The Deputy Director of the EU Institute for Security Studies has sparked controversy after saying that Russians are, quote, not Europeans, and that they see violence and death in a different way.
We should not forget that even if Russians look European, they are not European in a cultural sense. They think differently about violence and death. They have no concept of a liberal, postmodern life, a concept of life that each individual can choose. Instead, life simply can end early with death. Russian life expectancy is quite low, you know. That's why they treat death differently.
Well, those comments sparked controversy online, some even accusing her of using far-right rhetoric. Earlier, we spoke to the CEO of Cozy.tv and host of America First, who says the rhetoric is Russophobic.
Well, I think the rhetoric towards Russia since the beginning of this conflict, nothing more than Russophobia. And they talk about Russia, regime and the people, and it's just plain prejudice and bigotry. They talk about Russians as though they're uncivilized, treat them like they're not human beings. And it's a little bit ironic because the opposition to the special military operation in Ukraine is supposedly about so-called human rights, democracy and dignity and all these things. But when you look at the rhetoric coming from NATO, the European Union, and the United States, you'd actually think quite the opposite. Or you would think at least that maybe none of those things apply to the Russians themselves.
Well, that's all we have for you for now. Do head over to RT.com or our social media page.
On subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed.